Well, let's go to Benue State, where the police command there has confirmed the deadly attack by suspected armed bandits on police personnel and residents of Abande community in Kwande local government area of the state. A statement by the police public relations officer, SP Edet Udeme, says the incident occurred after the divisional police officer in Jato Aka received a distress call reporting an attack by suspected armed herder bandits who invaded the community in large numbers. Well, the attackers reportedly targeted police personnel stationed in the area as well as members of the community. During the confrontation that followed, an assistant superintendent of police attached to the 13 police mobile force, Makadi, who was on special duty in the community, sustained fatal injuries. Well, 4 residents of the community were also killed in that attack, bringing the death toll to 5.
The United States has confirmed the deployment of a small team of its troops to Nigeria, marking the first public acknowledgement of American military personnel operating on Nigerian soil. Now, the confirmation was made by the commander of the United States Africa Command, AFRICOM, General Godwin Anderson, during a press briefing. Anderson said the deployment followed renewed security engagements between Washington and Abuja, including high-level discussions with President Bola Tinubu late last year. According to the AFRICOM commander, the initiative is part of a broader U.S. strategy to assist willing African partners in confronting the growing threat of terrorism, particularly in West Africa. General Anderson explains that the deployed team is providing specialized support in areas such as intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, as well as intelligence fusion and operational planning. Well, with the unending global firepower index ranking of Nigerian Navy as the strongest in Africa, the unending killings by terrorists have invited a group of American soldiers to Nigeria. Now, to analyze this latest development is Rear Admiral Dolapo Kolawole, retired. He's a former Director of Operations, Naval Headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.
Thank you very much.
Of course, it's exciting news to hear that Nigeria has the largest fleet in Africa. But let's come to this clear and present danger and the unfortunate development only yesterday in Kwara State. Over 100 people massacred needlessly. Would you say from all indication that these terrorists seem to be, are they being emboldened? Because what is giving rise to this seeming resurgence of, violent attacks that end with such, mass killings?
Well, first of all, let me congratulate the federal government, the Nigerian people, and the armed forces of Nigeria on the current global power rating of the Nigerian Navy as the most powerful in Africa. And to specifically say this is a function of the number of platforms the Nigerian Navy has today, which surpasses that of every other navy in Africa at 152 platforms today, an average in Nigeria, surpassing even the Arab navies and the South African Navy in quantity. So our current fleet is very, very much suited for Nigeria's threat perception and our global ambitions, our regional ambitions, so to say, and responsibilities. To specifically answer your question, yes, the Nigerian Navy has a component that can also be used and deployed and function for these asymmetric warfare functions, which is the Nigerian Navy Special Boat Service, this is the Special Forces arm of the Nigerian Navy. It's a force which I once commanded. And it's very, very suitable for asymmetric warfare. It's modeled after the United States Navy SEALs. So, though naval personnel and sailors, they are trained for asymmetric warfare ashore and afloat, land and sea, both. They can function in both environments. So this component of the Nigerian Navy fleet, the SBS, Special Boat Service, its Special Warfare Wing, can be deployed for operations like what has just happened, which is surgical strikes, decapitation of terrorist camps, targeting terrorists, prevention, protection, and so on and so forth.
In spite of this large fleet, I actually wanted us to start on the killings in Kwara State, but since you, veered off to the issue of the largest fleet in Africa, in spite of this, yes, we're not able to prevent these killings. whether in Kwara or any other part of the country? Where's the
okay? Let me compartmentalize it.
Yes, please.
The fleet is afloat.
Right.
So now you are talking about asymmetric warfare issues on land, and you are talking about, as an example, the issue in Kwara State now.
Right.
So when you talk about such issues on land, asymmetric warfare, terrorism, militancy, the most vital component is intelligence. I have to be able to see a face to punch the face. And when I don't have the prerequisite intel to know who, where, and what their intention is and where they want to strike, then they are able to have the initiative, to seize the initiative, because they can operate where they want, how they want, when they want, without me knowing. So my first basic suggestion and recommendation is that we develop and improve our intel capacity, our capacity for intelligence. For example, with groups like this, a basic way out is human intelligence, basic infiltration with moles, having the intelligence services, the DSS, the Armed Forces Intelligence, the Defense Intelligence Agency, infiltrate these organizations to the extent that we know who they are, we know their plans, we know where they're operating from, we know their logistic basis, and we know what they intend to do. If you are a terrorist organization and I'm a step ahead of you in intelligence, so I know what you are up to, what you want to do, I can prevent you. I can be where you want to operate and stop you. I can decapitate your centers of gravity. I can prevent you from doing what you want to do. I can block your logistics. I can remove your leaders. I can prevent you from operating.
Okay. It does sound like we know what to do and how to do it, but there are still lapses. But let's go back to the maritime domain. For many Nigerians, having the Navy ranked as #1 in Africa and 22nd in the world is definitely cherry news, and it comes to you as no surprise as someone who was once there. But then how do you reconcile this ranking with what we have currently on the maritime domain, with piracy, oil theft, and insecurity in that domain, despite all of this? On the second hand, I would also like to chip in, how do you also reconcile this powerful Navy, Nigerian Navy in Africa, with the government then, subcontracting, and I put that in quotes, to private security firms as well?
Okay. Well, first of all, the issues of piracy, militancy,
oil theft
have drastically reduced.
Yes,
And
but they're there.
They're still there. There will always be space for improvement, but even with the most effective militaries, armed forces, or policing units and security units, it's difficult to have a complete zero crime-free environment. But if you watch and observe the improved capability of the Nigerian Navy, vis-a-vis, you would see that there's a drop in these crimes, in these activities, because of the extra platforms and capitalization and capacity of the Nigerian Navy. It has manifested in the maritime domain to improve security in the maritime domain. Now, you mentioned the issue of private maritime security companies operating in our environment. I would say every country and every environment develops its unique capabilities that suit its peculiar environment. What you have in Nigeria is a tripod of the government, the Nigerian Navy, and the local population, the communities. These resources, the oil resources, come from those communities. And you have now involved those communities, so to say, in policing and safeguarding what is beneath their feet, in conjunction with the Nigerian Navy serving the federal government. It has eliminated the constant conflict and clash to an extent between the Nigerian Navy and those communities, especially, so to say, certain militant groups in those communities have been involved in the security architecture. So it's a unique way. It's homegrown, a homegrown solution of three working together, the tripod. What I would just say is that these private maritime security companies also need to embrace the Nigerian Navy and see it as a partner rather than as a rival.
Because we do see those
But should
clashes.
it be the other way around?
Which other way
Should
around?
it not be the Navy seeing this private,
Well, I would say, I think, and I deduce that they tend to see the Navy as a rival to the functions given to them.
Their operations.
So there's a constant tension. There's need for better collaborative effort rather than seeing the Navy as a rival.
Right, before we wrap things up, U.S. boots on Nigerian soil. We're told it's a small team Of course, this follows the Christmas Day strike by the U.S. forces in Sokoto State last year. What exactly does this mean for Nigeria? Is this the beginning of U.S. forces' presence in Nigeria on a permanent basis? Are there any implications of this?
Well, I would say, first of all, basic strategic military logical thinking dictates that if we are going to have collaborative efforts with the United States, there will be a joint operations center, a joint cell where Nigerian military personnel and security forces can integrate with a U.S. cell for the purpose of intelligence sharing, coordination, and conduct of operations here. So now we hear that there are U.S. military personnel, on the ground, and what should happen next actually is that the Minister of Defense, AFRICOM, should throw more light on the composition, strength, purpose, and mission of that group. So until they make elaborate statements on this composition, strength, purpose, mission of this small group we hear about, we would wait for them to speak.
And can I quickly ask you in 20 seconds that we're hearing this from AFRICOM and not the Nigerian authority. Is that a source of concern to you? I mean, we know about the sensitivity of military operations, but should we be hearing also from the Nigerian authorities about this boots on ground rather than from AFRICOM?
I believe that the Nigerian authorities will speak. The Minister of Defense will soon throw more lights.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Rear Admiral Dolapo Kolawole, retired, former Director of Operations, Naval Headquarters. Thank you very much for your brilliant insights tonight.